Welcome back, everybody. The combine has started. There's a lot going on. The next chief is out there right now waiting to join Kansas City. And there's a little bit of news, positive or otherwise, from the combine about Tyreek Hill. We're going to get into it. Not just me, but Esquire over here, Mr. Seth Kaiser, and I are going to get knee-deep into your thoughts on Kansas City. Welcome to RGR Football. Well, Mr. Kaiser, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so sorry for everyone that I'm sitting here texting. I'm a very important man doing very important things. Actually, what's happening is that I was mid-recording of Times Hours with the unmatched Nate Taylor and the average at best Josh Briscoe. And, I got to stop doing stuff like that. Josh is one of my very favorite people. And I say this knowing he's not watching this live stream. And so I can say sincere things. Josh is one of my favorite people, and I think he does a great job. But man, I love making fun of him. I love it. But anyway, so I was recording with them, and I was like, man, it's like 5:58, and we were starting to actually talk about some pretty interesting stuff in terms of how likely we think that Tyrann Mathieu comes back to Kansas City, and Nate was kind of dropping bombs, and it was just like a lot. Then I realized, holy crap, I got to get to the live stream. And so you should know, dear viewer, I just dropped off the Zoom call without warning them or anything. And so I was sending them a text saying, hey, sorry, Ryan's more important than you.
I appreciate that. And just be careful, because Josh does have a bigger microphone than you, radio, et cetera, et cetera. So, easy on the too much there, but
yeah. I gotta be careful.
I'm glad, and I will look forward to hearing that particular episode. Folks, welcome to the show. Seth, obviously you can find him on The Athletic on his Substack, which I saw you have a new emergency mailbag giveaway, something or other. Tell me about that.
It's a special edition. So I realized that I hadn't done a mailbag in a while. And one of my favorite things to do is mailbags, where if you're a subscriber to the Chief of the North newsletter, you can go in, you leave a comment, you ask a question, and I answer the question. And it's always a fun format. It takes, let me just tell people who think that this is like a way to avoid work, it takes longer than a normal article, because you guys, subscribers, are so wonderful that there usually ends up being somewhere between 125 to 175 questions. Now, it probably doesn't hurt that by leaving a question or a comment, you also enter yourself into winning Super Bowl confetti. Which, well, here, hang on.
I was going to say, I can show you mine.
Camera. I don't know. Oh, just like that. Oh, you've got the adorable container, my friend. Hey, will you show people that?
Yes,
so
please.
That's exactly what you're in line to win. And it's not like a contest necessarily, it's a giveaway. And so that's what I send out. We've been able to do that with like half dozen people or so, probably a little more. And I haven't done that in a while. And if you're like, well, Seth, how will you ever have any more to give away? And so anyway, so a couple people that leave comments, questions, and you've got the website right there. If you go, it's the main article there right now, and it'll show you how to subscribe. There'll be a button there where you can subscribe for $12 a year. I can tell you that I have quite a few subscribers. I have never had someone tell me they thought it was a bad deal, or they didn't appreciate it, or that they thought that their money was poorly spent there. So anyway,
it's a screaming deal. Go get it.
So anyway, so what I did this time though, because the mailbag, you leave the comment, so then you enter to win, and it's also just a fun way for us to talk. This time, someone gave me a good idea for like a game to play in, so I'm calling it Create an Argument, because I do what I do. And what I'm having people do is leave a comment that is an idea they have, football or otherwise, most of it Chiefs related, because it's off season, right? The time for ideas. And whatever the idea is, I will create an argument for why it's a good idea. One of them was why the Chiefs should get rid of kicker, punter, and long snapper, go for it every fourth down, pooch kick, go for two constantly, and just live with the consequences. have the extra cap space, grab extra weapons. And I made an argument for it. And so stuff like that. Although one person who clearly hates me, I think they commented like why the Chiefs should trade Creed Humphrey. And I'm like, come on, that's mean, but I'm going to come up with an argument for it. The idea.
I look forward to that. Can I be the bad cop and smash that?
Yeah, no, it's going to be, yeah, this is why that's stupid. But, all you need is one good reason to do something. So that's what we're doing tonight on the Chief of the North newsletter. It's going to be really, really fun. And it's been a fun week. The If I Were Brett Veach stuff had part 3 come out a couple days ago with in-house free agents. I talked about Charvarius Ward, which the more of his film from 2021 I watched, the more I'm like.
Yeah. It's all about cost. I'd like to have him back as well. I think we talked about that a week or two ago. Like,
we did.
There's no reason not to. There's also no reason to continue to upgrade the position as well.
Yeah.
My goal would be for Ward to be the 3rd corner on this roster.
The 3rd corner.
Yes.
So
following
you've got
L'Jarius and a 1.
Oh, so you're thinking like, so you're thinking Fenton would be the 4th corner.
Yes.
Wow, man, let me tell you, if Rashad Fenton is your 4th corner, you are like
bingo.
You are swimming.
And there's 2 ways to do it. And I've been rolling this around all day too. So like you brought it up perfectly. You can bring Ward back, leave him exactly where he's been, not mess with his role responsibility at all. You can either let L'Jarius stay there and pick a top corner at 30. I think there's a couple that are worth it, to tell you the truth, that would make that trio super strong. Or you can move L'Jarius back out to outside corner and get a 2nd round pick that is probably a 1st round caliber at the nickel specific.
Oh, sure. Like actually go back to nickel specific as opposed to moving guys around as much.
Right.
Interesting.
And then with Ward's newly found experience traveling this last year, he and LJ can go wherever you need them on the field. Your corner guys, your nickel guy's a nickel guy. But you can now swap. You can trail number 1 receivers. You can flip sides. You can deal with bunches a little bit better, in my opinion. And I think that like helps the entire defense out. Interesting.
Sometimes simplifying is the best, like in terms of trying to make things happen. My thought process was if you don't bring back Ward, you better be planning to go all in on one of the main dudes on the market because you absolutely need 3 and you want 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
And you almost need 4, really, unless you're hoping everyone stays healthy all year. And like if they bring back Mike Hughes for another year for a relatively cheap deal to be the 4th guy, I can live with that. He had some ups, he had some downs, but that's what you're going to get for your 4th guy. Like you're not going to get like that's why like if Rashad Fenton is your 4, that's insane. Like that kind of consistently above average corner play. That's hard to get. So that's interesting. So is this a shift from the Ryan we all know and love? Are you building from coverage back forward now?
Because no. Because I'm intending to get at least 1 starting edge in free agency.
Sure.
And at least a rotational defensive tackle in free agency. And then my only fear is I have 1, 2, 3, what do I have? I have 5 guys with 1st round grades at the edge. The 6th is borderline. So I could see that at 32, right? At 30 as well, I mean.
Right.
But if they all go, because the lack of quarterbacks forces all the edges to go earlier and those 6 are off the board, then I have to go receiver or corner because those are the next 2 best players at 30.
Well, that's what I was actually going to ask when you were mentioning, taking an edge high. I was like, well, how are the Chiefs going to draft Jameson Williams then? I made a mistake today.
I wish they could. I think he's going to go well above where the
So as we're recording, the wide receiver, not recording, as we're streaming right now, the wide receivers are doing all their 40 times and people are, talking about all these things. Christian Watson is apparently just blowing up the combine. He's going to go before the Chiefs pick, I assume.
Who?
Christian Watson.
No, he's a 3rd round pick.
Really?
At best, he's a 2nd round pick.
Wow, he looks like he can play.
He can.
Why is he a 2nd round pick?
Because he played at NDSU and he had 800 yards of production last year, and it is definitely a come.
They run the ball like 90 times a game. I'm from the North.
I know. I'm just saying. Yeah. I don't think he makes it into the 1st round. I honestly don't think that he makes it very high in the second. I think he's somewhere between 60 and 75.
So they should draft Jameson Williams and Christian Watson. I'm just talking now. I don't believe a word of what I'm saying.
Well, everyone's so high on Jameson. I don't think he's going to be there, man. And I don't think they can trade up into the teens.
So I made a mistake. So, the 40 times are coming in. Everyone freaked out that Treylon Burks ran like a 4.55 or something, which when you're built like that, dude, and you win the way he wins, you just can't be like a 4.7 guy, honestly. And on tape, he plays faster than that.
He does.
I mean, and it's not, he looks like he can play. And man, that dude's got a lot of strength, a lot of ball skills. Like, it's kind of like, now it's not on the same level, but like Jamar Chase, once he hits top gear, can really run. But he's not a burner by any stretch of the imagination.
And I think a lot of people are going to say he's had all these explosive plays. And yes, he has. But a lot of them were either where they got the ball to him on a clean catch in stride where he's already accelerated and he's able to get that, or the nice thing about him is you can run him on jets. You can run him around. He can wildcat. He can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, breaking tackles and instincts in space matter.
They do.
The ability to shake guys off matters. Being as physical as Jamar Chase is affects the way guys try to approach you. And the reality is 40 time doesn't affect top speed. Travis Kelce is still really, 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 really fast at top speed. But he probably right now would run like a 4.9 40 or something. You know what I mean? Just because that initial 20 yards just isn't there for Kelce the way it used to be. And even that, he ran like a 4.6 or something like that. But when he got going, guys couldn't catch him. Jamar Chase it was what?
I believe it was a 4.74.
4.74. So Kelce's a 4.74 guy, but you remember him his first few years. Once he got going, he wasn't caught. Like, remember that first touchdown he scored in the preseason against Cincinnati? I wrote about that once.
You say so, bro.
That's like me would be when you reference like a draft guy, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I actually wrote an article about this once, about like when you know kind of moments, like moments that you knew someone was going to be a problem. With Travis Kelce, it was preseason against Cincinnati. He got hit on a slant route and then just ran 75 yards for a touchdown. It was awesome.
See ya.
So you don't need that for explosive plays. So anyway, what happened was, and this is the reason why it's connected to Williams. So,
hey, by the way, you were right. Travis was 4.63 at his pro day.
I was gonna say, man, although that's a pro day, so that's probably more like a 4.68 or whatever on the, So anyway, so people were like talking about Treylon Burks, and I was like, I don't know anything about any of these guys. Wide receiver might be my know your draft crush position this year. Because last year was tackles. Well, of course, last year was tackles. Then they traded for Orlando Brown, and I had wasted a lot of my life.
Chris Godwin, welcome to Kansas City.
Yeah, and I was like, great. And Brown was better than any of those guys except Slater last year. And even then, Slater got a lot of hype because he was a rookie. But if like Brown had been a rookie and played like he played last year, people would have been losing their minds. Because that's just how it works, right? Our expectations tend to color our analysis. It shouldn't, but it does. So the wide receiver is the position I think I'm going to pay attention to. So I was like, Treylon Burks. I'm going to watch some highlights, which is never a good way to get an idea of a player, but it's a good idea. It's a good way to get an idea of the player's top traits.
Ceiling.
Yeah. What's his ceiling? How is he winning? Are his highlights a result of him winning? Or is it just a result of some singular trait? Or is he just wide open because, it's like, one of those years where they've got a ton of receivers or the competition's bad, whatever. What does it look like, right? Well, with Burks, I was like, well, holy crap, this guy can play, and he can. And then I saw a video where someone was like, the fastest receiver in the draft. I'm like, people are always exaggerating that. And I remembered that you had mentioned Jameson Williams, and I started watching him. That guy can cook. Like that, his play speed is unbelievable. And so now I've decided it's Jameson Williams or we riot, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But there's a lot of mutants in this draft. I was starting to look at there's a lot of wide receivers that are just really good players, maybe even more so than last year. And that's crazy.
Yeah. It's not quite at the top end. Like Jameson Williams, had he not gotten the ACL injury, he was wide receiver 1. He was already my receiver 1 at the time. But there's a difference between Burks is still in the conversation, right? And you guys, I am going to release my top 5 or my top 10 here on my own Substack coming up soonly. I just haven't organized the dang thing yet. And that will be behind the wall and all that stuff, just so you guys know. But Williams is still my number 2, despite the ACL, despite having a slowed season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like that just tells you like Wilson is good, Olave's good, Drake London's good, and Dotson. Those round out my top 5 right now. Okay. I don't think any of them beats, certainly not Chase, but even maybe the top 3 receivers in each of the last drafts. You see what I mean?
No, that makes sense. Well, and Chase was just, people started to overthink that as the draft approached.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they forgot. It's like this dude was on a team with Justin Jefferson, and he was better.
And he was
like,
the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is the dude. And he was. But there's a lot of really good, but like you said, it's maybe not that utterly top guy, but it seems like there's a lot of like guys that are, man, I think these guys are future 1,000-yard receiver guys. And that's a big deal for the Chiefs because they could use that. Although I actually spent a good part of times ours today defending Mecole Hardman, kind of pointing out that in terms of wide receivers, I think he was 42nd in yards in the NFL this last year, which when you think about the fact that he's on a team where the tight end is arguably the first or second target.
Is 2.
And then so he's the third guy. Being 42nd when you're wide receiver 2 and really receiver 3 is super impressive. Now, it's not coming in traditional ways all the time. Not all the time. Right. Some of the time it is, but not all the time. So I get that's where some of his production is coming from. But you really saw the Chiefs in the second half of the season, I felt like, especially, really kind of start to catch a groove with like, okay, this is what Mecole Hardman's really good at. This is what we're going to have him do because he is a unique player. So you keep doing that stuff with him and then say, hey, what if is Chris, is it Olave? Olave? I like Olave.
Olave.
The Frozen fan of me is very disappointed right now. Olave.
I got nothing for you.
Is he a good fit? Is he a good fit for the Chiefs offense? I've heard he's awesome, and awesome sounds good.
Yeah. He is awesome. He's a little bit slight. He runs a lot of routes out of the slot. He is probably the smoothest route runner in this class, though.
Ooh.
He's not quite as sudden as some of the others, and I don't like him outside constantly. So, yes, he could fit into the concept that the Chiefs are just going to move all the receivers around, but he doesn't fit that, hey, he's going to take the press man and beat him. He's going to be the Sammy, right? I don't see him in that role.
Interesting.
But it is what it is. And, folks, this is a good time to tell you, yes, if you're interested – hit the rookie level in the memberships and you get into the Discord. That's where you can talk to everybody. The whole staff's in there half the time. Like, sub, and hit the bell. We're 20 minutes in. I forgot to tell you guys to sub if you're new. We do get a lot of new people this time of year. And if you don't know me, if you don't know him, this is Seth Kaiser from The Athletic and from the Chief of the North Substack. And Times Hours or Time Sours, whichever it happens to be that day. Let's see where else. And from obviously here and a number of other places. I'm Ryan Tracy. I founded Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. I am technically a consultant in that I send my things out to the NFL teams. Can't say that I'm employed by any of them yet, but we're working on it. And you can find the Athletic Matrix here. I am the founder of that old strength and conditioning coach, performance coach, whatever you want to call it. So welcome to all of you that are new. Obviously, wide receiver, that's why I put them on the thumbnail for this video, right? Is because it has to be that nice picture of Hardman, Hill, and Mahomes together. They need that third guy. Particularly, and I'm interested to see what you think of this. I think they need to take a little bit off of Travis in terms of volume, in terms of making him being in a situation where you can't move the offense well enough that he has to power through all this manhandling that he saw in 2021. I'm concerned about that longevity-wise, and I think another weapon on the outside is how you dissipate that on Travis.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. And that's one of the things where even though Mecole Hardman's a good deep threat, he's not necessarily a consistent outside threat because, yes, he can run a terrific post because he's up. I mean, Mecole Hardman would be the fastest wide receiver in this class. Now, Williams can really fly too. Those two would be, but Mecole Hardman's like Deshaun Jackson fast. Like he's a freak. But he's not a guy that can consistently win on the outside. You can't take that step back. So you got to beat that press man. You just got to do things a little bit differently. to where he can do it sometimes, but not consistently. So having a guy that can do that, I think would help, just because it would force teams to maybe not tighten things up so much. I know one thing that the Chiefs started doing with Kelsey, I think that's one reason they started moving him around so much. And you line him up in the slot a ton, which you already do. But really, with Kelsey, it's trying to keep bodies away from him at the line of scrimmage to where they can't line him up to hit him. And having another weapon's a way to do that. And I mean, me, I'm team more weapons. Let's get crazy. Let's sign Allen Robinson. I don't care. I mean, it's not my money. It's Clark's money.
Thanks, Clark.
Yeah. Thanks, Clark. I appreciate it.
It.
So no, I could definitely see that. It's just, for me, I keep finding myself looking at some of these guys like in the wide receiver group in the draft. And again, I'm just now dipping my toe in, but you got a fair number of mutant type dudes, like not quite Jamar Chase type mutants, but guys who do some things really, really well that feel like they could fit in. And that's a big deal. And so the thing is, with the draft lately, we're seeing more and more receivers come out kind of NFL ready, because college is just throwing the ball all over the place. Hi. Sorry, I just love it when people say hi.
No, I do too. That's why I'm going through these.
Oh, hi, Holly. And so I think that's a place to really go heavy in the draft, because you don't need offensive line like you could if you really wanted to. Reinvest at right tackle with Niang having injuries eat him up. Remmers finishing the year hurt, because you don't want right tackle to be a place of weakness. Maybe bring back Wiley just to keep that floor solid, whatever. But wide receiver is a place where you can attack through the draft and maybe even double down and see who wins. And if they're both good, okay, oh no, we've got more weapons. That just seems like a good way to go for me, because other positions in the draft, they don't seem maybe quite as, and you're right, it's not like top heavy in terms of like the number one dude, but it's top heavy in terms of multiple really good players. Right? Like, to where you've got multiple guys, you're like, I think that guy could contribute year one. And I like that.
Right. I do too. And folks, if you don't know, we are a Chiefs-centric show. This whole channel is Chiefs first, NFL second. Although we do cover a lot of concepts. So if you would like sub and hit the bell, I'm sure we will definitely get to your concept. Some news today, and as we move forward here, I do want to thank everyone. I see your super chats, folks. If you want to support the channel, you can buy shirts and stuff, gear in the RGR store. It's linked in the description of the show. You can super chat us. We very much appreciate it, and thank you. We are going to get to your questions here coming up at about the halfway point. So we're going to finish our topics for tonight, and then we will get into those. I'm stacking you up. Don't worry. We will not forget about you guys.
We can do this.
The news today, and I saw one was a rumor, and it was unsubstantiated. I wasn't going to run with it at all. But then probably my least favorite radio host in Kansas City, Fesco, actually reported per an actual source. Now, we understand what this has happened before. That's fine. I'm not a big fan of Fesco, but I will give him, at least he's brought up in traditional media. If he says he has a source, I'm guessing he does. And that is that, as always happens at the Combine, there is conversation between agents and things, and Tyreek Hill's extension is on the table and moving forward. So I feel that's a good thing. Now, a lot of folks are saying there's nobody under contract. You have Hill and Hardman under contract this year. That's the way it stands right now. You still have everybody else that is, afterthoughts. Like Powell is still a draft pick. You have Fountain under contract. You have Dieter under contract. I think Gordon fell off. That was a 1 year that should be done at the league's year next week. So yes, you need multiple. You could double dip at one in the draft, one in free agency. You could take two in the draft. You could do more than that depending on the role. It's all about the total accumulated cost, in my opinion. So I don't think there's anything to preclude getting that weapon. The only thing that I will say is that I'm having trouble, as much as I would like the concept of Drake London is a guy that isn't, I don't think he's running. I didn't see anything on him before. He had a lower leg fracture during the season, which is great. If you're going to do something that causes you not to get to the combine and everything, break something. Don't have it be soft tissue. Bones heal very well, folks. So I think he's a guy that could fit and would give the Chiefs a little bit more of that jump option, that 50-50 ball option that we saw them start to employ with Jody Fortson early in the season, right? London is that guy all day long and then some. He is great at that. He is, imagine Michael Pittman, but bigger, stronger, and faster.
Ooh. I like all those things.
Right. Yeah, it sounds pretty good, right? But my problem is, and this is what I want to ask you, I'm just having a hard time buying myself in that they're actually going to go do that and that they're going to revert to more 50-50 balls. And if they do, I'm hoping that this season has pushed them in that direction because of the coverage that they've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they could do that and really go away from the just as much speed as possible to get as much separation to keep everything open and flowing?
This is where I'd like to throw in the "why can't we do both" gif, because I think that's the option that you have when you've got a guy that you trust who can play a little bit explosively, and that's obviously the dream, right? That's why Sammy Watkins was a really high draft pick. You got to remember the way, like, Watkins coming out was a more highly rated guy than any of the receivers in this year's class.
Yeah.
He was considered completely generational, and he was more explosive at that point. If you go and watch even his first year in Kansas City, and then a few years before that, the difference in explosion by the time you hit the end. But you ideally want a guy that can do both, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, if you find a guy who's more of a contested catch guy, but also a good route runner, because if you're just a pure contested catch guy only, that's code for can't get separation.
Yeah.
So you can't be just that. You got to be able to get separation, win at the catch point in other ways besides just out jumping and snagging the ball out of the air, right? If you have that guy, it's not like Tyreek Hill, at least in 2022. It's not like Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman are going away. You're still going to have unbelievable speed on the field, probably the two fastest guys in the NFL. So you can do both, and that's the unique position the Chiefs find themselves in, that they don't need to draft Jameson Williams. They should. If he fell, that's one thing. Like, I love it when the draft or free agency or anything results in a bunch of angst in favor of the Chiefs. Like when the Chiefs were re-signing, when they extended Chris Jones, and then they extended Travis Kelce, and then they signed Mahomes to a big deal. I don't remember the order of all those things after they'd had $175 under the cap. And people were like, how are they doing this? People were so upset. And it was hilarious. And I loved it so much. And so, that's one reason why I would love to see, Jameson Williams. And for him, it would mean a little less money. So that's a bummer for him. I understand that. But that dude's going to make a lot of money in his career because it's awesome. But, to see him fall to, 29, just to watch everyone go, no. And then, just because the number of people would be like, how did the NFL let this happen? How?
Right, exactly. Y'all screwed around and let him get another one.
It's like how people were reacting when the Chiefs offensive line, even to a lesser extent when they picked Trey Smith, everyone was like, that you saw it a lot. Did the NFL seriously let one of the best interior offensive linemen fall to the Chiefs? The one weakness they had. So I want to see that, but I do think that you can do both. And that's one thing, maybe if they just go with a fast guy. Now, Jameson Williams is not just a fast guy. He's many things. And that's why he's such a good prospect. I wouldn't be in favor of them grabbing another guy who's a pure speed guy because they have that in Hardman.
Agreed.
And he's a bit of a deep ball threat too. He can adjust to the ball a little bit and stuff. He's not elite at it, but he's okay at it. Mm-hmm. And so you grab a guy who can do those other things. Think Byron Pringle plus. Byron Pringle, who I really like. I hope maybe the Chiefs can get him back at a decent price, but really should be probably your fourth target.
Yeah.
And that's maybe after the running back on some things, just because Pringle can run good routes. He's where you want him to be. Tough guy, generally reliable hands. He can help. He belongs on a roster. He belongs getting 500 snaps a year. Mm-hmm. But you don't want him to be a guy that you're relying on to beat press man when they are putting guys everyone else. And so that's the cool thing about the way the Chiefs roster is set up right now. They can have both. They can have the best of both options rather than pigeonholing themselves into any one thing, which is kind of what happened with the receiver group outside of Kelce last year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room to expand in any one direction. I don't know. I just can't buy it yet until I hear. So that's where we are on the wide receivers, folks. I think there is a new one coming. There will be a new 1, 2, 3. We'll see. And Doug's on the same track on another position. So again, like, sub, and hit the bell if you are new. Thank you guys for the super chats. And Doug, thank you for kicking us off. Do you think we will double down on defensive end in this draft, meaning 2 selections at the edge position?
I don't, just because I think, and I don't think Joshua Kando is going to like morph into an elite guy. We talked about this last week, I think, but he showed some traits that I like. And he actually, like the few times he was on the field, because he had an injury, which is a bummer, but you looked at him and he looked like he belonged out there. Kind of similar to like a Mike Dana look, but with better tools. You know, like Dana, although Dana, I mean, man, that guy just understands how to play NFL defensive end.
And that's what Kano is not.
Yeah, and that's Dana's going to be in the league barring an injury or something goofy, and it's going to be hard for him because he's a late round pick. He should be in the league for 10 years.
Yeah,
because he is always going to be a guy like we can give that dude 500 snaps and we'll be okay. Because he'll be good against the run. He'll be a high effort guy who wins a few times as a pass rusher and cleans up when other guys win. There's value in that. Here's the reason I bring up Kando. The problem with doubling down at defensive end, if you're the Chiefs, is you're doing it starting at 30. And because of the nature of this draft, as you kind of alluded to, edge rushers are hard to get late in the first round, especially in a poor quarterback draft, because you're going to have guys taken early. Normally, you can count on 5 or 6 teams, but really the NFL is a little more set than it's been in recent years at quarterback. And so they're going to be a little more picky. I don't think you're going to see 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I hope there are. I hope 9 are. That would be great, but that's not going to happen.
Considering I only have 2 first-round grades, I certainly hope not.
Yeah. And so, well, I mean, I hope so. And that'd be great.
Yeah,
for the
you
Chiefs.
like that? You like that?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. So the problem for the Chiefs is that you're not going to have a particularly high-level edge prospect, barring a catastrophic fall. So instead, you're drafting traits guys. And defensive end is one that's tricky, in my opinion. Drafting traits guys, unless they're like, Myles Garrett type traits or Chase Young type traits, like, those dudes that dominated in college and have the physical stuff, that's hard for me because it just seems like it's almost random which guys translate and which guys don't.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. That's what I strive to do, is put together all those things so that it's not as random. And so I do think they will have some options. I think if they really want them, they probably got to go up and get one, though. And I'm okay with that. The extra 3rd-round pick from Poles makes that a viable option, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
It just means they're not getting up above 20.
Right. And an extra 3rd-round pick is definitely a big thing. Although it's tough, if you think that it's a deep receiver draft, that extra 3rd-round pick, you're like, yes. So
exactly.
To me, if I were going to double down in defensive end as the Chiefs, I'd do it in free agency, which is much more expensive, but it's a little bit different. And everyone will say every year to grab Clowney. Clowney's just not a Spags defensive end. He's just not.
And you never know what you're going to get.
You don't. And let me just tell you, I think Von Miller would be a more likely guy than Clowney, because he can do the things that Spags wants you to do better than Clowney. Not that I think they're going to sign Von Miller. It was just an example of a guy who's hitting the market.
Right. Although if I was going to spend that kind of money, that's what I'd be doing right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a place. I think defensive line. Yeah, you try to build up guys through the draft, but really where the Chiefs are drafting, unless you get lucky and like a Chris Jones falls to the 2nd round. And honestly, that's still weird to me when you watch Chris Jones's college tape. I understand that people were worried that he ran hot and cold. But I think part of the reason why people viewed him as running cold is because his running hot was so dominant that people were expecting that every snap. Because like the stuff that he could do, you're just like, that guy can do it at the NFL level.
Right. It was the effort that was hot and cold. That was the problem.
Sure.
And honestly, we still see that sometimes.
I don't know. He's my guy.
Yeah, you do. Okay, that's all right. Daryl, thank you very much. We appreciate the support. I'm moving on before he talks himself into saying something else. Do we trade the 30 for more picks, or who do you like at 30? This is a great question. So specifically at that round, who do you like, or have you done enough, or do you have an idea of what the compensation was that you would want back if you moved out of there?
I don't know.
Okay.
I go by position at this point. I like a receiver at 30.
Okay. So you can hope that London's there. I don't know that he will be. If this pro day doesn't clear up for Treylon Burks, that he doesn't drop into the 4.4s at his pro day, which I completely expect, you might see him fall a little bit as well. And fall meaning that He's not as high as us in the media had him last week because the teams aren't going to change anything because they've seen him on film. He does have burst, but I always questioned whether he was really a 4-3 guy like people were talking about last week. So there's a possibility. I don't see it, but possible. The guy that I really like there, unfortunately, is Jahan Dotson, who has maybe the best hands in this draft, but is not a physically dominating guy, is not somebody that can line up and beat press outside all the time, cannot draw the number one corner and win, at least not consistently. So that's a little bit difficult. So at the edge spot, I know somebody said, I can't remember, I think Chiefs fan for life. I think you were talking about George Karlaftis being available at 30. I absolutely believe he will because he's a second-round pick in my brain. I would tell you this, the guy to watch is the guy I profiled a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I can't remember. Cameron Thomas. Huge power edge, right up Spags alley from San Diego State, an endless motor. I mean, literally, the dude is like, he's a hybrid. He's got gas in the tank, and his battery never runs down. He's incredible. He's just not a bendy, super explosive dude. Like, he's good. He's just not. And I think, personally, they need a speed rusher. They need someone more explosive. Hence my thing about, hey, I would talk to Von Miller if I had to. I don't care that he's 34 years old. He's better than Chandler Jones. He's better than Melvin Ingram. He's better than anybody else that's available as a free agent, in my opinion. And which is great because he looks closer to himself 5 years ago than anyone else, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. And Chandler Jones can play. That's not like necessarily a shot at Chandler Jones. If they signed Chandler Jones to a relatively decent deal, I'd be like, great. Because Chandler Jones has been much better than Frank Clark over the last 4 years. Like dramatic. way better. And he does it in unique ways. That would be fun to break down his film.
Yeah, right.
Because he wins weird. It's the only way I can think of. And so, but like, I mean, really with the edge thing, I mean, you know, bring back Ingram on a 2-year deal and sign someone like Vaughn, sign someone like Jones. And suddenly you're like, well, okay, we've revamped the pass rush. Now let's fill out the cracks a little bit. Let's find a nose tackle. If they can't bring back Noddy, I mean, and I think people would be surprised at how good the pass rush looked.
My big thing is, I think the zero tech in Noddy is fine. I don't think Turk took a big step forward last year.
Right.
I am concerned about him being a full-time interior pass rusher across from Chris Jones next year. I think they need a dedicated pass rush first tackle in this draft because I don't see it in free agency otherwise.
No, I don't see it in free agency either.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe he takes a step forward. It's worth noting, and we talked about this, I think, last week, that we haven't really seen a lot of the defensive line take a lot of steps forward. Maybe that's not entirely fair. Colin Saunders looked a lot better going from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. But he's just been nicked up so much that's been tough. But really, Wharton did not look like he developed a lot. And I'm curious what the Cullen hire is going to do with that. That could be interesting.
I'm curious as well. I hope that lifts him. I'm there for it. Doug, thank you. Appreciate the support. Great work at RGR and love the content from Seth, as you should. Welcome, Chris Weeks, into the rookie level of the memberships. That means you get in the Discord. I need you to email me over here, buddy, at this spot right here, rgrpodcast@gmail.com. That's how you can get a hold of me in general, by the way, folks. But specifically for the memberships, let me know you're a rookie and we'll get you invited into the Discord. That is our members only. A lot of people have been asking me to open it up and stuff, but this is one of the perks for being a member of the channel, and we're going to keep it there with our folks for a little bit here for the foreseeable future. Actually, I don't mean to tease or anything. But welcome. Glad you're here, Chris. Austin, hearing from J-Paw Football, I don't know who that is, trusted news outlet, that the Giants are asking for a 4th rounder for Saquon. Talk to me, Goose, because I already said my opinion on social media and people wanted to roast me alive.
I would just say, I mean, I have no idea whether it's true or not. Even if it were true, the problem with Saquon is that he still has like a $7 million cap hit on the year of his deal he's got left. And there's not a lot of running backs that are worth that. Even peak Saquon, I don't know if that moves the needle, and he's been hurt a lot. And I don't know if him at his peak, great player, excellent player, but I just don't know if that moves the needle enough for $7 million with the way the Chiefs have chosen to use their running backs.
I'm with you. By the way, Austin, nice. I'm guessing that is actually a Herbert avatar. I like it. A 4th rounder is not terrible. That's the very beginning, because that's the first round that I would actually draft a running back. So I would think it needs to be less for me, and I think the Chiefs would probably not be interested, to tell you it all, because of the medicals. Terry, do you think we go for a free agent edge or trade for an edge? I don't think there's any trading going on, you guys. I don't. Calvin Ridley, Saquon Barkley, any edge you can name, including Josh Allen, which is from my sources in Jacksonville, Josh Allen is not available. That is supposedly complete rumor from two people that I know that cover that team. So I think that's just a long shot. I honestly don't think the Chiefs are into the trade thing at all right now.
People rarely trade high-level edge rushers. The Frank Clark thing was unusual.
Yeah.
And we saw how that went. There's a big risk there. Because if you trade for a guy with what it costs to pick up a top 10 or even top 12 defensive end, because even top 12, you're talking a really high-quality player. There's a lot of really great ones in the league right now. With what it costs you, he has got to be top 12.
Yeah.
And if he's not, it can really hurt you because of what it costs you in terms of contract and all that stuff. And that's what happened with Clark. We talked about this before. If Clark played at a Chandler Jones level or not even like a TJ Watt level, but one of the Bosas where you're like a top 5-ish guy, Bosas. There's a lot of guys you can argue to be the number one. Honestly, there's a lot of really good edge rushers right now. But I mean,
there's nobody that's really dominant. Which is it?
I don't know. I mean, they're all because it's like TJ Watt is awesome. Both Bosa brothers are awesome. Myles Garrett is awesome. Who am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting. Like, it's not like Khalil Mack died. I mean, he's still great.
This game might have, though.
But I mean, you need them to play at a really high level, and so I think free agency would be the better way to go, barring something weird happening.
I'm with you. That totally makes sense to me. Stacking up a few more questions, folks. We are going to keep moving through them. If you want to ask a question, please do. Put some question marks at the beginning for me. It helps me find them. And give a shout out to our fearless mod, Aaron Morrow, who is in the house. Haven't seen Stevie or Gooch yet, but I'll bet you they'll be around. Jacoby, what do you think about it would take to trade for Montez Sweat? I see him as a better prospect than Josh Allen and the Jags. I don't see him as a better prospect, to tell you the truth. I would put them really close, but I would still have Allen on top. Mm-hmm. But again, you're trying to pry away the best pass rusher on somebody else's roster. So for me, the draft capital to do that would be just the crazy expense. Now you have them both on rookie contracts, yes. But I think the more likely thing, rather than all these trade options, is do the Falcons get tired of Calvin Ridley and his lack of commitment to the organization and cut him? Then game on. I'm happy to bring him in, work him out, and give him a free agent contract. Mm-hmm. Do the Giants get fed up with the injuries or the risk of injury and paying Saquon? Do they cut him? Open season on signing him once he's a free agent. It's the trade for me that I think is definitely what I wouldn't do and what I don't think the Chiefs will do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm with you.
Chief for life. Lorenzo Conner could be a sleeper signing for KC. Put him in OLB next to Bolton and Gay. I mean, he lines up at OLB, but he's a 3-4 pass rusher. So like you wouldn't play him off the ball as a Sam.
Right.
But when they do reduce into the nickel look and you have Bolton Gay on there, hopefully they have another linebacker that's more pure coverage guy. Mm-hmm. And on third down in the nickel, it's Willie and whoever this new guy, you know what I mean? Like right. Nick's great on first and second down. If he's your nickel backer, you're right back where you were with Hitchens.
Yeah. And I really, well, you know what? One thing with him though, I'm curious if he can be better than Hitch in that situation.
That's a fair question.
Given the progress that he made, some guys, and like this is the tough part, and this is the part that causes people to ignore analytics when they shouldn't. But man, some guys just know how to play football. And Nick Bolton, the whole year, I mean, early on when he first got on the field, I was like, that's better than I thought he'd be early. And then it just kept progressing. And so maybe that keeps going. But it's tough to rely on that because you have physical limitations. And even though he looks like one of those dudes, I wish they made them do the combine in pads with helmets on. Because some guys just aren't, because everyone is slowed down by pads and a helmet. Everyone.
Yeah. Some
guys are just less slowed down than others. And Bolton seems like one of them.
He's already exceeded my expectation for what he would grow into. But here's the thing. When I say nickel linebacker, folks, I mean turn and run in man on tight ends and running backs. Nick is a zone cover guy, and he's better than I expected. He still isn't a turn and run with a running back down the field guy.
Yeah,
And
let alone
that's
like, hey, we're gonna have him cover a tight end. Oh,
right.
Willie Gay Jr. can do that.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying Willie has to be a nickel linebacker with another coverage linebacker. Nick is an all around. And I'm very happy with his development. I know you got Mizzou guys. I know Aaron Morrow's losing his mind right now. I am not bashing Nick Bolton. He has outplayed my expectations, but he is still a middle backer, not a coverage linebacker.
You hate to see it.
I know, because I was that guy that couldn't turn and cover and run down the field.
I'm curious if they try to find, assuming they don't bring Sorensen back, which I don't think they will. But I'm curious if they try to find instead like another hybrid safety type guy, like a, there's a few people I could name.
Jayon Brown.
Yeah,
he's a sneaky free agent acquisition. I could see playing that role. Jabril Pepper's another one.
It just who like with how he played in college and physically looks like he would be perfect for that role. Dorian O'Daniel. I will never.
Oh, what an idea.
Yeah, what an idea. And I get it. He's gone through 2 coaching staffs. There's obviously something there. But, like, he's like a giant safety.
Yeah.
And he plays like it. It's just, I'm always going to be bothered by that. If I could get in a room with Steve Spagnuolo, there's a few questions I'd ask him. That would be, like, top 8. Would be like, okay, what is it that Dorian O'Daniel can't do that's keeping him off the field? Because maybe it is like, hey, look, not everyone can quite process this stuff at the level we need, and so he's a good player for certain things, but he can't do whatever. And I would say, okay, fair enough. But I am curious.
Yeah. Dinner's on me. Come hang out with me and Seth for an evening and let us, ask you a couple of questions.
I won't even tell anyone what you say. I just need to know. I gotta know. I just want to know. That really is it.
You gotta know, and we gotta go. We got 25 questions, and this is the speed round, folks. 15 minutes left. Bill, thank you very much. We appreciate your support. Velus Jones, Jahan Dotson, both looking good at the combine. Really smooth and confident running the gauntlet. Good fits. Yeah, on Locked On NFL Draft yesterday, I said I thought Dotson was going to be the best guy in the gauntlet because he is just so smooth. He has, like I said, maybe the best hands in this draft. Velus or Velas, I'm not sure how to pronounce that 100%, but he's actually, I thought he was one of the quicker guys at the Senior Bowl. He tested really well, better than I had expected for him. So I'm happy for him. Both could be there. Dotson could be there at 30. Velas should be there at 62 or whatever it is. So yes, I think they're both options there. And I like the way that Velas is put together. He can withstand a little pounding from press man. He can take that on and actually survive. Daryl, why wouldn't Williams do the bench press? Either he didn't think he was going to perform well, or there's some kind of upper body injury. I honestly don't know.
A lot of receivers are declining it, and I see why. Like, all you can do as a wide receiver is hurt yourself with the bench press the vast majority of the time because no one cares. Like the bench press, that doesn't even like don't tell yourself that goes into their ability to beat press coverage. It does not.
It does not. No. Cole, I think we answered your question, but thank you for it anyway. 30 at wide receiver 30 is possible. Brother Rick, thank you for your support. Do you remember who threw the slant to Travis on that game?
No, but I'm going to circle back to that. Ryan, you take a couple questions. I'm going to find that.
I'm with you. How do y'all feel about Josh Paschal in the second? He's one of the few guys that I have not been able to find all 22 on. He's still on my watch list. I'm very intrigued by him. Also, maybe Reggie Robertson or Dontario Drummond in the 7th round. I think Drummond goes much higher than that, maybe 4th. Reggie Robertson, I think, will probably be a 5th or 6th. I'll tell you, too, Drummond's teammate, Braylon Sanders is an underrated guy on day 3 that I think could make a difference. He's got a knack for getting open. He was really good at the Senior Bowl and way overshadowed by Drummond as well. So check him out if you get a chance. Wes, what big time trades do you guys like? Would you like to see Veach make on both offensive and defensive side of the ball? I mean, it looks like they're going to franchise Devontae. I'll tell you this. If Green Bay franchises and they want to tag and trade, that would be a big time. I would love to see him play with Patrick.
Yeah, I'd do that.
There's just
I would make that work. I'd figure it out for a year just to see.
Okay.
Because, I mean, for one, he's arguably the best receiver in the league. And yeah, you'd pay a price down the stretch, but it would be really cool to see that if they tagged him. And you might not be able to keep him long term. You probably won't, and you'd have to do some stuff. And maybe your defense kind of your best case scenario remains to be average,
Mhm.
I don't really care. Like that would be such a unique opportunity. Just throwing that out there because that would be for me. That's on the fun scale, and the Twitter reaction scale would be really funny.
I'm totally with you. Who are your 4 guys on Chiefs Mount Rushmore? For me, it's pretty simple. It's Lamar, it's Hank, it's Marty, and it's Derek. That's my 4.
Oh, I mean, people are going to get mad about, I mean, one has to be Lamar. One has to be DT. I think Mahomes has to be one of them. I really think he does. I think he has presided over the best stretch in Chiefs history. He helped them break the 23, not the 23 because they'd won that playoff game previously, but everything changed with him. And so I think he has to get there. And then you just got to figure out what coach you're putting on there. And
fair enough.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But I think Mahomes has to be there.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. You get to have your own 4, bro. Julian, hope you're doing well. Welcome back. Tyler with the Saints struggling against the cap. What would you be willing to give up to acquire Marshawn Lattimore if they wouldn't hang up the phone? It did cost 2 firsts to get Ramsey 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, Marshawn's good. He's not as good as Ramsey, in my opinion. I wouldn't give up 2 ones. I would give up a 1 and a 2 if I did it at all, but I honestly wouldn't do it. I'm not trading my 1s anymore. I'm selecting guys that I want to bring in because Orlando and Kelsey and Mahomes and now Hill and who's the next giant contract on defense? Like, they're so enormous, these star contracts now. You have to balance it with more youth on rookie contracts. It's just the way it has to be.
It is.
Until the cap really, really blows up, which might be 2 years out still.
That's probably 23.
Yeah.
Maybe 24, but I think 23 is I'm trying to remember the new TV deals. They already did 1. And so I think that's this year. And then
the next one kicks in this next summer. So after 2023 starts in terms of fiscal year.
Oh, okay. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, so maybe it's 24, but it might be like maybe it'll blow up in increments. But I mean, yeah, this 23, 24, 25, that's going to be a 3-year stretch where you're going to see some boom, boom. And you can structure contracts to account for that, but it's tough. Yeah. It was Chase Daniel.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, who threw that. I'm watching this play again, and good Lord, Travis Kelce could move. I mean, he's still top speed. He's still smooth, shifty, can move now. But like, this was like, man, I forgot how unbelievable this play was. It was awesome. Yeah. Maybe I'll throw this in the comments.
Jimmy, I don't know that Seth's watched a ton of prospects yet, so I'll just tell you the best player in the return game. And I hope you mean return specific because there's a number of wide receivers that can do it. Williams can do it. Dotson can do it. Britton Covey's a day 3 guy out of Utah that's got a real knack for it. Kyle Phillips, I understand, can do that as well. I haven't seen that. Honestly, I don't watch special team snaps when I do my grading. That's bonus material for me. That does not go into my evaluation of a wide receiver. So, but as I come across more, I'll try to stand out for you. Angry Drunken German. If there's any truth to the Twitter reports, the Giants might be willing to trade Saquon. What's most you'd offer? The 6th that they have. That's it.
I don't think I'd offer anything for a $7 million running back unless they're willing to eat some of the cost to where it's like a $3 or $4 million.
I'm with you. Julian has a good one. Hill, Allen Robinson as your 2, Hardman as your 3, Jareth Stearns. I love the way you think, Julian, and Pringle as your 6th / special teams guy. I am so down with that. It's sick.
Yeah. No, that would be quite the haul for them.
Yeah. I mean, and I could switch in Godwin for Robinson too. If they're cheaper, Godwin's younger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They might draw about the same amount of salary as my thought.
And people should understand odds are both those guys are going to get paid. You don't see a ton of cheap deals in free agency because supply is far outweighed by demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Or demand is far outweighed by supply, you mean?
Supply is yes.
Right. Let's do that.
Yeah, I like the way you say things.
Bill, thank you for the support again. You're the man. I remember reading Kano had an ankle injury in college and affects his ability to bend around the edge. Is that concerning given his recent injury? Sure. Everything kind of builds up on an athlete like that. Like, it definitely plays a part. But I don't think it's a physical problem with Kano. I mean, unless it turns into like he's always hurt kind of thing. He just doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't in college. He was raw as the day is long. And the Florida State staff has not had a good reputation. They've overturned year after year after year after year. And somebody was bagging on me last week about how I'm railing against Florida State. I'm not here to say anything bad about Florida State. The fact is their edges have not developed. And part of that is because you're constantly changing coaching staffs. So as much as everybody loves Jermaine Johnson, he's still not a top 3 edge rusher for me. He's barely in the 30s. So that's just the way that it is. And so I don't think that Kano has had the development time. He's going to be like, Kano is going to be like Tano. It's going to take year 3, I think, before he starts to understand the game at the NFL level and he can actually do something. Are you guys coming to KC for the 23 draft? Yes, I will be there, without a doubt. We will arrange something. Yeah, I'm working on some sponsorships, folks. We might even have them here soon, so you can watch the draft locally with an establishment that we might set up a deal with. And we'll definitely have something for the 2023 draft, I promise you. Joshua, if you had to draft all defense, but sign offense, or draft offense and sign defense, which route would you go? I would
draft offense, sign defense.
See, I was going to say the opposite. That's funny. Because I can get a right tackle and a wide receiver on offense relatively cheap. To sign the 5 guys that they need on defense, I got to spend some money.
You do. But I think you can get a better chance of success in free agency with the defensive guys. I have nothing to base that on other than my feeling. Nothing.
Okay, cool. Bill, what's Boye Mafe's nothing? Okay, I get it. What is Boye Mafe's ceiling? Is he a fit for KC at 62? Boye's going to push for the first round, is my thought. He's still raw as well in terms of like recognition and awareness of what is coming at him, anticipation of the plays. But he is a physical freak. He has the length. He is explosive. He understands how to finish. I think he was the best edge at the Senior Bowl that wasn't Jermaine Johnson. And honestly, I would put it pretty close because Johnson only practiced a day and a half or 2 days, whatever it was. At 62, he's easily fit. If he lasts that long, then teams are not banking on his ability to make the transition. And I think that the athleticism there is going to be through the roof. We'll see how he tests this weekend. Thank you, Bill. Julian, thoughts on adding Von Miller to your deal? Yep, we covered that one. Agba as the other end, I'm not so sold on. You're again getting into a Frank Clark situation. He's not an explosive pass rusher. He's a power edge rusher. And
he's been better than Clark the last couple of years, but you got to ask yourself how much you're going to spend on him.
Right. I would go out for Vaughn, I got to tell you, because I think he's 80% of what he was in the Super Bowls where he dominated. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's good enough to make a huge difference. I would like to see Vaughn and Melvin. Let's gather all the AFC West foes that can still cook and put them on one roster. I'm ready.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Brian, thoughts on J.D. McKissick, Washington running back, as a free agent target? You don't care.
He's a running back.
Running back. I knew.
No, I think I haven't watched any of them, but I think they just need someone explosive. I'm guessing they don't hang on to McKinnon unless he comes back for a really cheap deal and McKinnon gets nicked up. It's an unfortunate thing, but they saw how important it is having one guy on the roster with a little more vertical explosion and honestly horizontal, run some of those stretch runs. And I hope they saw that need. Either that or I don't know, let Clyde run between the tackles.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Teddy, thank you for the support. Appreciate you. Burks did have a bad outing. Yeah, 4.5 and 33 was what surprised me the most. 4.5 is a little bit slower than I expected. I had him at 4.5. 4.45 is what I said he would do. Should he still be someone that we look at if he falls? Yes, he's still a playmaker. He's still exemplary. He just might not be a first round talent, but he might be on the edge. And if he's there at 30, and that's the best option, you don't have a better edge, why not? What do you think, Seth?
Based on what I've heard about Burks, I think if a guy who can make plays like he can and what he showed on film, falls to 30, I think you sprint to the podium and say,
Okay.
idiots, and
hey.
have fun with it.
Look at Tyreek's new best friend.
Yeah.
Yay.
And he's got a skill set that can really, really complement the other guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Teddy. Appreciate you. Chris, do you expect anything from Malik Herring? Just don't have any idea. We have 0 reports on him. We have 0 updates. So I'm really interested to see, but I'm gonna have 0 expectations until we see something.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any DT help out there for Jones in the draft or free agency? Certainly in the draft. I don't know about free agency.
Free agency is pretty light.
Yeah. In fact, Julian mentioned the one guy that I was like, hey, possibly.
No,
he's
had some
pass rushers there.
Yeah. I mean, Hicks has had some injury stuff. He can play though. Like when he's healthy, he can play. Like he would be the best guy next to Jones ever.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Daryl, why are all the wide receivers skipping the bench press? Because it doesn't do them any good.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, if they're going to drop and change the combine in the coming years, especially as I add in more data into the matrix about when I do get data on miles per hour and the top ends from the GPS stuff, something as specific as a bench press that isn't functionally equivalent to something on the field for a wide receiver, it just becomes less and less important. So the chance of injury goes up. There's just no reason for it. I mean, honestly, if you're not a lineman, and I'll split that D ends and D tackles. If you're not an edge of some kind and an offensive line, there's no reason for you to bench, period.
Mm-hmm.
I would even let the tight ends out of it. I don't care. When you watch Burks get a free release to the outside and get 3 feet of separation on deep catches, or when you see his second gear breakaway speed, does he remind you of DK Metcalf a little?
The physicality and the way that he runs, with just the very brief stuff that I've watched and the way that he catches, the way that he plays, that aspect. But I mean, Metcalf is much more explosive initially, not in change of direction. Burks actually changes direction a little better than Metcalf does, which everyone's joked around about that. But he doesn't have that same explosion with those first 5 steps. Like the first 2 steps, especially, Metcalf explodes. He's a guy I actually was thinking about Metcalf if the Seahawks decided to trade Wilson and just start over from scratch. I'd make a call about Metcalf because he's got an interesting skill set.
Yeah, and it's something that they don't have right now in that size and speed combination.
Yeah, that super physical guy who can also threaten deep from the slot or the boundary or anywhere.
Yeah. Bill, I will just say this too, that he looked like a monster, Burks did against Alabama. But as I review that film, there are some times where I think that was as much on the lack of solid DB play as it was Burks' exploitation of them. So I will just say that. But I do like his game. I do think he is a fringe first rounder on my board. I think the league will probably take him higher than that. Mm-hmm. Rev, thank you. Appreciate you. Kevin Austin, Notre Dame. He's huge, and I'm just saying. 436. Okay, rock and roll, man. I have not watched his film at all. When I watched Notre Dame this year, I watched their defense. That was it. So I will try to check him out and give you a report on him as well. Rev, appreciate you and thank you for the support. Tyler, as someone who lives in Indy, I was super high on David Bell in the KC offense, but this testing today, I can understand you. It is a little cautionary tale. Now, I think he plays faster on film, so I'm looking for him to rebound at his pro day, but we'll put that all together. Bill, are you guys okay bringing back Agba? Since we already discussed him, Seth, let me ask you, what's the cost that you would be comfortable with Agba?
I mean, he has been productive. I haven't looked at his pressure stats, but he wins at a decent rate. His last year in Kansas City, some of his sack production wasn't quite he ran into a few that Jones had kind of cooked up for him. Yeah. But I think he's a guy you could pay $8 or $9 million a year and be pretty happy with that. But that I wouldn't go higher than that. And even that, I'd be a little on the fence.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I think I said 6 to 8 and that was about my range.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. Still a possibility. Yeah.
He's a good player. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's good. He's not great. And that's unfortunately what happens to edges in free agency. They get great money for being a good player.
They do.
Hydra, thank you. Appreciate your support. Would you be okay with trading up and getting more picks to use this year, so we don't always have to worry about a certain group being rebuilt? I think you mean trading back and getting more picks, because you're not going to trade up and get more. But yes, I think this is as good as any year to trade back. I think that there's more opportunity, specifically this draft, for the Chiefs' needs to actually finding a good fit at 30. Whereas last 2 years, I've been screaming for them to trade back. Now I'm like, if you want to get more picks, go for it.
I think no matter what you do, you're always going to have a certain group being rebuilt every offseason, because it's the NFL. Just the layering of draft picks and team build. You're never going to have multiple years in a row where you don't either need to improve a group that underperformed or replace someone that performed really well. That's just how it goes at the NFL level. Too many, when you've got 22 starters and then another, 7 or 8 guys that see consistent tons of snaps, probably more actually, you're talking 30, 35 guys that really matter. So you're always going to be rebuilding something.
I'm with you. Lego, in light of the second and third year players and how you rate our strength and conditioning staff, you say 1 out of 10. I'll give them a little bit more than that. But yeah, there've been a lot of injuries. I won't say that they're all soft tissue, because that's generally what strength and conditioning does. You can build a guy up, build strength, but it's also to keep your flexibility, keep you less likely to have soft tissue injuries. And that has been a little bit, but I'd give them a solid 6. I don't think that they are the cause of why those 2 classes in particular haven't been on the field as much.
Mm-hmm.
Do you disagree, Seth?
No, I don't disagree. And I think you would know better than I would.
Okay. Well, I still got to ask you. Hydra, thank you again for your support. I don't think I said that right. James, would like the Chiefs taking Myjai Sanders at 62. I am fine with that. Myjai is in the second tier of pass rushers for me. He's the one guy that has a body of a 3-4 OLB, but he's played on the edge and he's played inside. He's played 3-tech. So I know that, like, functional strength-wise, he can hold up. So, Madman, sign free agent Brian.
Which Brian?
I think he means me. Let's just sign me. I'll take a 1-day contract. Retired chief. There we go. Stack, thank you very much. Always awesome to see Seth on the show, right? Because this is the Chief in the North show. If I did this without him, it would kind of suck.
It would be weird. I mean, I think it would still be great because you're great, but it would be weird if nothing else.
It would definitely be weird. Okay, we got 2 more. Tom, thank you. You've been out on tour. Oh, I didn't know that. Tom, you and I need to talk, because I might be losing my bass guitarist. I don't know where you're at, but seriously, we do need to talk. Hit me up at the email address, rgrpodcast@gmail.com. Any thoughts on a draft prospect that could step in and eventually take over T5's robber role? There's 2. Daxton Hill, this is more the corner safety, and Jalen Petrie, this is more like the strong box blitzer, strong safety type. I like both those guys. There's just nobody that can do all 3 things right now. At least not. I haven't gone all the way through the safety ranks yet, but I'm working on it. And the last one for tonight, folks. Thank you. Like, sub, hit the bell if you're new, and thank you for this, Hydra. What exactly is your background in football? I think you've mentioned playing and coaching. Curious. I was at KU. I never played. I ran out of talent in high school. I shouldn't have been a college football player. Should have stuck to wrestling like I should have. After that, I was a graduate assistant at Kansas. I was a strength and conditioning coach in a couple of places. I did intern for the Chiefs back in the very, very late 90s. And I have since run my own performance coaching business for the last 15 years until I started doing media about 6 years ago. And then I switched over, and now I run Rogue Analytics. And that is a physiological based metric, or group of metrics actually, that is still focused on how the body works and who's explosive, who's not. It's not the theoretical math type play outcome analytics. My version is all based on strength conditioning and physical performance. So, and that's it. I've been kind of all over the place. So I am not the writer that Seth is. I'm just some schmo that likes the game.
And I am not the football mind that Ryan is. I'm just a schmo with no background in the game that spent the last 12 years with very generous people like Ryan and people smarter than me explaining to me what to look for, what I'm looking at, which has been really, really rewarding. That's the cool thing about football, is you really can learn it. You just have to be smart enough to know what you're stupid about.
Yeah, and be humble enough to realize that no matter how far you go, you don't know everything. It's short supply these days, I think. I'm
Yes,
going to make one more cruise to make sure we don't miss anybody's super chat. I appreciate you guys supporting us all year long. You always do, and we will always be here for you. I don't want to leave anyone out. And Teddy, of course, thank you very much. Can I interest you guys now? Pierce is a second, third rounder. Absolutely. More in the third for me, but absolutely. And I hope that he tests well. I didn't see the testing while we were recording or anything like that, so we'll get to that as well. And of course, Holly had to throw one in there too. Are you doing a live mock draft this Sunday? My plan is right now to this Sunday's mock breakdown, Chiefs breakdown mock draft will be live. I think I should be home in plenty of time this weekend for my family obligations. So that is the goal. So yes, be here. You can help me work through it as we do it live, and maybe even Seth will jump in. You never know. And there's Miss Holly. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate you. I know it's over time, but I want to express my appreciation for the show. And I hope you've gotten the answer.
We appreciate you, Holly.
More so than you know. We appreciate you being here and being with us. And I know that you've had some decisions coming your way. I hope it all worked out the way that you want. Mm-hmm. So everyone, thank you for being here. Everybody that's new, like, sub, hit the bell. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back with you next week for Chief in the North. And you can find more over at the Substack where Chief in the North really belongs. But, we try to supplement. Thanks for being here, Seth. It's been fun.
Hey, always awesome talking to you.
Have a good night, folks. You'll see Roguehead Huddle tomorrow with Stevie and Gooch. And Combine coverage will soar.